Alright, this is a quick one to show you what the insides of a Dodge van chassis looks like. 1972 to 2003 about. The newer ones will be a little bit different, but they're pretty close. So what you got is steering gearbox. You got two frame rails up here that are actually frame rails. They're, real actual frame metal. Once you get back where the seats are, right about here, it starts turning unibody. And behind, if you're in PA, this here, which I think that's the back of the cab. No, the front of the door pillars. So behind the front of the door pillars, mainly behind the steps, behind the door pillars, it turns right about here to into unibody. And that being, well, I guess you can't see it because somebody tacked a frame rail onto the back of here. The motorhome converter tacked this big ugly assembly back here. That's got an extra bumper that had the poop dumping tube in there and everything. And it had an extra fuel tank here. And the regular fuel tank's under here. So what you've got, I think I'll see if I can poke under here. Not getting bit too bad. I don't know if anybody can see that or not, but there's two frame rails, and there's a couple of cross members and stuff. They're all spot welded. You can see the spot welds here. These U-channels with the little lips on the edge are spot welded. Oh, here's the other side of the spot welds. Spot welded to the van floor. Now, I'm pretty sure all the motorhomes had this van floor because it's part of the structure. And they won't sell it without it, and they can't really drive it without it because it'll be floppy. And you've got a channel that fits on here, and I had to cut this stuff off. All the stuff on the front is welded solid onto it. The fenders, the door pillars, obviously those are welded, but I mean everything's welded on this thing. There's no bolts. The only thing that bolts on is the hood, the cowl, and the grill. Everything else is welded solid. Now this was welded, but I broke it off trying to pull it by this cross member. I didn't like it very much. Yeah, right about here is where they start going from frame rail to unibody. Oh yeah, you can see one of the cross members right there that goes across, and that's like a U-channel. That's welded into the front, not the frame, but the what do you call it? That is welded into the floor. Yes. Might get a little better view from back here. There you go. So that's basically under all the RV stuff is the old van floor. And that's part of the structure. I've been doing some cutting and stuff on this. It took me forever to get that stupid motorhome carcass off of here. And they'd already taken the top part off, but the hardest part is the bottom of it because it's bolted and drilled and rusty bolted and everything else to it. And it looks like they've welded this bracket here onto the U-channel there that makes up the frame member. And they cut this. They did some cutting just to the point where it wouldn't weaken the structure, but I'm pretty sure that if you use one of these Dodge motorhome chassis that's unibody, you got to keep the bed, or you got to keep the floor, the old van floor, because if you don't, it'll flop. Well, actually, yeah, because you saw under there, the cross members are part of the floor. So you can probably cut in between the cross members, but you can't cut out the cross members, which I kind of accidentally didn't know when I started cutting this. I'm going to have to weld back across this spot here all the way over because I didn't think I was going to need that cross member, but apparently that's an integral part of the structure. You know, these steps and everything are welded, the fenders are welded, the whole thing's one big structure up front. That's what makes it a pain to get apart. That's why these things are going away. Nobody will take them. and the scrappers don't want them because it takes so long to get to the actual metal, and there's so little actual metal compared to the amount of garbage these things produce with the carpet and the linoleum and the tanks full of poop that people never dump out and everything else. You know, just there's so much garbage on top of these things that it's not worth taking it for the frame. But I did that not knowing that it's unibody, and now I tore it apart and I've got me one. And get these hickamajigs here that trailing arm brackets, I guess you'd call them. Nice factory weld you got there. That is actually the Dodge factory. Yeah. And you got your power steering gearbox here. That's just normal for pretty much anything. Yeah, standard old, boring old steering gear, and control arms and everything else is, you know, not notable. Although the framey thing, these do sit lower to the ground than Fords and Chevys because they're unibody. Oh yeah, you can tell the frame, well, framey thing back here isn't as tall as a regular van frame, a Ford or Chevy van frame is. See, it's only what, 5 inches, 6 inches maybe at the absolute most. So it's a U channel. Of course, you got to be really careful with these too if you live up in the rust hell, because you know it's just going to rust right out as soon as you get any kind of crap in there. And this big squarey looking thing back here, that's the original bumper. That's a structural member at the back. It's also part of what the springs hook into. So that's structural there. And this is part of the structure here on either side. This is what the front of the spring goes into. I think you can't cut those. You can't cut past what's already been cut. That's what makes her tick.